What's going on, everybody? Karate Kid Fanatics back here again, episode number 38. We got a very special guest, the 1981 All Valley champ himself, Darryl Vidal from the original.
Hey, hey Levi. Hey, hey everybody.
Yeah, so John Appleton and Randy Sabasala actually scouted you out at a karate tournament for the role in Karate Kid.
That's right. In fact, I was surprised you know about Randy. That's pretty obscure trivia there.
Yeah, yeah. So when you got the role, did you ask for your name to be Vidal, or is that just what they gave you?
Yeah, it was funny. I don't think it was even decided until we were filming, and they had to put a name up, um, but or it was close to filming because they had to decide on it, and then at some point John just told me, "Yeah, we're just going to use your name," and so. Yeah, it was just kind of a fluke thing, and it's kind of cool because now I play myself, but in a fictional movie, but they
Yeah.
use my name, so it's kind of weird.
Yeah, so how did you film the scene, up on the stumps when you doubled for Miyagi for the crane kick?
You mean how did we? There were no special effects. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah,
So
I'm just like, cause like, wasn't it like a telephone pole that was like cut up weird and everything?
yeah, so at the beach there was nothing. So they told me about what they were going to do, and so in order to practice it, we were going to the rehearsal soundstage at Columbia, and they actually brought in a cut off uh, telephone post, which was about 4 feet tall, and they put it on the floor, just kind of like.
Yeah, yeah,
And I said, well, I could get on top of that, but I'd be afraid it's gonna fall over while I'm up there. So Pat Johnson, who was the stunt coordinator and the ref, actually got down on his knees and kind of held it while I did it a few times and practiced it a couple times, and it worked, and that's how we practiced it. And then when we got to filming, and that I believe was October of '83. The day before we all got out to the beach, they actually put those posts, dug them into the ground as if they
yeah,
were,
yeah,
as if they were there. And then uh, they got me all dressed up in these, kind of a bodysuit that made me look a little bit heavier, and a bald head wig, which I wouldn't even need now,
yeah, yeah,
a goatee,
yeah,
and basically the cameras were set up, as you can remember that long shot down the beach,
yeah,
probably 50 yards away or something. And they just said, okay, there you go. They were waiting for a certain time with the sun, and just go ahead and walk out there. So they filmed Miyagi walking out there, but then
yeah,
after I'm up, when it shows me up, that's me. I'm up on top of it, and we just do it over and over, and then we're going to switch lenses and do it over and over. So kind of just did it over and over, and then
yeah.
break, and then do it again. So that was how that went.
Yeah, so when Daniel and his friends are out there playing soccer, you're actually in the background for that, right?
Yeah, well, you really are on all the obscure. So yeah, because all the beach scenes were taped like in the same 2 week period.
Yeah,
So when I was out there and just kind of hanging around, waiting for when I was going to have my scene, but I was just there. And so John said he needed someone to be out there so he could go from this long shot into them kicking the soccer ball up here. And so he said, just go out there and do me a football and say, pretend you're throwing a football.
yeah, yeah,
so
yeah,
so that's it. You can actually see with the higher definition on Netflix, you can actually see me out there,
yeah,
pretending to throw a football. But yeah.
yeah. I may be wrong on this, but in the semifinals with Johnny, wasn't the score originally supposed to be 3-1, but they cut it out?
Yes, yeah, we had choreographed that whole fight scene from beginning to end, and so that's how we had choreographed it. He would score, then I would score, then he would score, and then he would win. So
Yeah,
yeah, but my point was left on the editing room floor, as they say.
yeah,
And then I asked John Alvinson about that 20 plus years later when I met with him, and he basically said, we had to cut because the film was too long. So we were
Yeah.
just cutting anywhere they could. That was one of them.
Yeah. So how did you all film the scene where you jump up and kick that big old fat guy from the Cobra Kai?
We just did it. Like I said, everything's choreographed, right? So I had an agreement with him that I was going to go ahead and kind of, not kick him full power, but go ahead and kick him just so it was real. And so we probably did that 4 or 5 times too, and I nailed him several times. So it was pulled, but it wasn't fake.
Yeah. So, for the end, the last scene, Ralph doing the crane kick, did you have to work with him quite a bit to get that down for the
You know
ending?
what? It's funny you say that because after we kind of came up with how we were going to do it, really it was the hands and doing all this. Once we got that going, we probably spent, an afternoon going over it, and he picked it up pretty quick. I mean, the double jump kick is pretty easy by itself.
Yeah.
So just for him to mimic the cover and then the arms up wasn't too difficult for him.
Yeah.
It's funny because in the movie, when it shows him practicing, he actually looks worse, right? Because he's supposed to be having a hard time.
Yeah,
He's practicing.
Yeah.
Yeah, he kind of looks bad, but I think he's making it look bad because, ultimately it's not that all that difficult, except when you're on top of a post, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're standing on the ground, it's pretty simple.
Yeah. So, yeah, what was it like when y'all got to have the reunited apart for, the first 3 Karate Kid movies?
Oh, well, I mean, that was awesome. I mean, I think it's funny that for the first 20, 25 years after Karate Kid came out, I barely even talked about it, or nobody even really knew about it except for, close friends or my students, or, so it was really kind of forgotten. And then with social media and stuff is where it started to come back and become more known. And so I always kind of felt that I was just this guy who was in a movie. And then when that all happened, I think, how did I get who contacted me? I can't even remember how. Oh, I think okay, so here's what happened is all the creators know about me because I had to sign waivers in order for them to use the scene which is they show me getting taken down by Johnny. So they contact me. They have my email, and then when Josh Gad contacted them about doing this reunited apart, they included me in that, and so it was amazing because I mean I've seen Ralph and Billy and those guys periodically through the years, but I had never met obviously the creators. I haven't seen Robert Kamen since the movie and filming the movie, and it was amazing. And then all the Cobra Kai people I had never met, so it was really cool.
Yeah. So how much did you get to work with Jerry Fisher for Karate Kid?
Jerry Fisher.
Well, your old sensei in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, do people your listeners even know? Yeah, so I'd known him already because he was a well-known tournament promoter, so I've already known him. But when it got to filming the tournament scenes, he was cast as my sensei.
Yeah.
So for however long it was, a week or 2 weeks that we were doing those scenes, we were sitting next to each other on the stands, and we got to know each other quite well. And it was funny because I don't want to disparage all the actors, but they're actors doing karate. So
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
And so we're looking at it, and I always say that the magic of Hollywood is in the movie because when you watch them filming it, and these people, if you train, you can say, oh God, these guys don't know what they're doing. But when it came out on the big screen and all the cuts and all the angles, it looks pretty good. So Yeah, it's pretty amazing. But did I answer your question? That's how I.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah, so Jerry was a great guy, and he passed probably 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a really good guy. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, so I see your 52 Masters shirt. What was it like getting to,
Yeah,
happy birthday, William, by the way, if you're watching this.
there
But
you go. That's right.
uh, what was it like getting to film that?
Oh, it was very cool. Backstory there is William and I knew each other uh, even before the Karate Kid because we would compete against each other. I think I'm 2 years older than him.
Yeah,
So we were for a while we wouldn't be, and then we'd be in the same division. And so, but we knew each other pretty good. So more recently, he's done a ton of stuff.
yeah,
He's a filmmaker. He's a producer. He does a lot of charity events. So back in I think 2014 or so, he did a charity event, and I participated in that. And so ever since then, I've really respected the work he's done, both for charities and as a filmmaker. So as he was working on the concept of 52 Masters, he told me because I saw him at I think Dragon Fest event, and he said, "I'm doing this thing called 52 Masters. I want you to be part of it." I said, "Great, just let me know." And it actually took a couple of years because
yeah,
everything happened and pandemic hit, and then he's not 52 anymore. That's a couple of years
yeah,
later, but he's still doing them, and it's great because even though I was in the movie. And I'm not an actor, so I'm not around filmmaking as much. But he is a true, filmmaker. He's got his people, and he has an eye for the angle, and how to talk and all that kind of stuff. So it was great working with him, and we haven't really trained together. So it was kind of the first time we've actually
yeah,
done
absolutely.
stuff together in 30 years. So it was a great guy, and it was a great experience.
Yeah, so for people that haven't seen that episode, can you talk about taking your now wife to the theater? That story?
You've heard every interview, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I had just started when Karate Kid came out in the summer '84. I had just started dating my wife, who we've just celebrated I think 36 years married.
congratulations.
Yeah, and so as kind of a joke, I brought her to the movie.
Yeah,
I said, "Let's go see this movie." I didn't tell her that I was in it. Um, Funny enough, it was the premiere, and a bunch of my buddies were coming too. So
yeah,
they were sitting around us, and they were making all kinds of comments and talking. And so every few minutes, she would turn around and say, "Hey, quiet! We're watching."
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So that happened right when one of my scenes came up. And every
yeah,
time it would, she'd turn around and look, or she wasn't paying attention, or how it is when you're in a movie. So yeah, she never saw it. And then I'm like, at the end, I said, "You didn't notice that I'm in that movie?" And people were going, "Hey, you were in that movie." And
yeah, yeah.
what? So we ended up having to go again and watch it. So it was kind of silly.
Yeah, so if Bobby wasn't disqualified, how do you predict that third place match would have went?
That's a funny question because I didn't even realize it until somebody posted on my YouTube and said, "Oh, you took third because Bobby was disqualified." And I never even thought, "Hey, where's my third place trophy?"
Yeah,
But Ron, he's a good friend of mine, he still is, and he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and he was back then. So even when we were doing the Cobra Kai training, he and I were kind of, martial arts buddies because we both were black belts. So I don't know if I want to speculate. I probably was more of a tournament point fighter
yeah,
because his jiu-jitsu it has grabs and locks and throws and stuff, and I was pretty much a kempo point system karate guy. So it's point karate is kind of like tag. You stand back and try
yeah,
to get that one shot in. So maybe I would have won.
yeah, yeah. So, you got to recreate the crane kick in John G. Avildsen's documentary. What was it like getting to, get on the stumps again?
Oh, that was actually it was an amazing experience because the director and producer of that, Derek Wayne Johnson, I'll have to give him a shout out.
Interviewed him. Yeah, great guy.
You did?
Yeah,
Oh, good, yeah. But that's fantastic. So he's the one that told made it all happen again. Somehow I think we met on Facebook, and he told me what he was doing, and I had actually been an early donation to his effort in making
yeah,
making that movie. And so that was one of the first things he wanted to do was go out to the actual location. And so we did it. I was working out there kind of, and we scheduled time and drove out to Leo Carrillo State Beach, where I hadn't been since
yeah,
1983.
yeah,
But he found the spot, and you could clearly recognize from where they come down on the motorcycles, and they had the soccer scene. Those rocks are still there. So the where we filmed the crane kick is just over that hill
yeah,
on the north side of that beach, and it was obviously the subs weren't there, so we brought like a stool or something, and I stood on top of that and did it. But it was I don't know what the word is, kind of
surreal.
surreal. That's a good word. It was
Yeah,
definitely surreal being out there and having to have somebody out there shooting and telling me to do and then doing it. So yeah, that was a great experience, and I'm glad you saw it, and hopefully your fans all get a chance to
yeah.
see.
It's free on Pluto right now, or it was. So
Okay.
yeah. So yeah, what was it like, getting to see Rob Garrison, at the Hollywood show, a little bit before he passed?
Yeah. Wow. It's amazing that you know that, but yeah, that was actually the last time, the first time I had seen him. Let me see, is that right? Because I went to some reunions. Um, yeah, there were at least three other events where had seen Billy and Pat, or not Pat, Ralph, and some of the other Cobra Kai's. I see Ron fairly regularly, but Rob Garrison lived like in West Virginia or
West
something.
Virginia, yeah, that's
Yeah.
what he told me.
Okay, so on the East Coast, and so the Hollywood show, they actually brought him out, and we got to be together, and so we got some pictures together. It was great to see him. It's funny because we did spend some good time together, but you're away from somebody for so long, but it felt like we had always been around each other.
Yeah,
We would also message each other on Facebook, so
yeah,
I don't think I think we felt close. So it was good to see him, and yeah, God rest his soul. He passed probably 4 or 5 months after that.
yeah, yeah.
Sad.
So yeah, I mean, it's not the best movie in the world, Karate Kid 3 I'm talking about, but what do you think about Terry Silver coming back?
Yeah, um, yeah. Karate Kid 3. I have to admit, I hadn't even seen it until probably a couple of years ago, and I think the Karate Kid 3 has some really over the top acting. The
Oh yeah,
characters, and Terry Silver is definitely one of those type of
yeah,
over the top characters. Here's this rich guy who smokes cigars in the hot tub while people are coming to do contract negotiations and
yeah.
stuff like
50% of
that.
his business. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So, but once you get past that, he's a great actor. He
absolutely.
played the part. He's a good martial artist. He shows it off. So, he was on the reunion show with Josh Gad, and that was the first time I had ever interacted with him. I did say hi to him, and he's a real nice guy. So, I'm very curious to see how it all comes out.
Yeah. I knew you can't talk about whether you're coming back or anything like that, but you think you would still be the sensei, or well, I wouldn't say still be the sensei, but be the sensei for Locust Valley.
I mean, I think that storyline makes sense for a couple of reasons. One, I've been teaching and training all this time,
Yeah,
so in terms of Daryl Vidal being the same Daryl Vidal, it's true. I've been teaching and training the whole time, so it's kind of like follows that whole. Uh, Here's the real guy, and it's it's a real storyline. But at the same time, there were only a couple of dojos that were memorable from the original.
Right.
Miyagi Do, the Cobra Kai's, and then you see these others, but you see mine in school and they say it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think there's a good reason to have it, but at the same time, people ask me about coming back, and I'm like, well, if I was a creator, I would keep the stories moving forward.
Right.
And so I don't know that there's a strong impetus to have me back, except for the fact that they keep saying my name, right?
Yeah, that's what flashback season 2 they say your name, in season 3 again. So
yeah, so I mean, I have to suspect
in the
that,
paper too.
That's oh, you know what? I tell you what, the paper is really the most revealing part of all the backstory, because it wasn't until somebody snapped it and put it up and I read the thing. I said, hey, look at that. I won in 81, and me and Johnny are actually 1-1 now, and so it kind of filled in a lot of the backstory, and I was really delighted by it. But yeah, so that's all I can.
Here's how I put it, though. If they can bring back Yuna from Karate Kid 2, the Bell Tower Girl, they can bring back Vidal. That's how I kind of look at it.
Yeah, I look at it the same way. When I saw that, I go, that girl, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is it like, getting to train with Sean Kanan some?
Oh yeah, Sean. He's a good guy, and we've only met each other. I think the first time we met was. They had the city of Los Angeles had a Karate Kid Day, where they have the mayor and they say it's Karate Kid Day, and this was before all the Cobra Kai stuff. I think before the 30th anniversary. So we all showed up there. Ron told me about it. I got invited, because I kind of felt at the time, well, it was really a very minor character, but the fact that Ron always kind of kept me apprised of things, and so he invited me, and I got invited by the mayor, and we all got out there, and Sean is there, and I'm like, who's this guy? He wasn't in the Karate Kid. Come to find out, he's a soap star, but he was Mike Barnes, and like I said, I hadn't seen Karate Kid 3, or maybe seen it once, so I figured out, and we met, but we really didn't connect. And then it wasn't until later, like a Dragon Fest event or something, where we had our tables next to each other and we're signing autographs. And I got to know him a little bit better. And, he's a really nice guy. And we just, traded numbers. Actually, my wife hit it off, and they became my wife is very a gregarious person. So she got his phone number and started texting him, and we started, kind of sharing if we were going to go somewhere. And next thing you know, he tells me that he wants to train in stick fighting or some other art. And I said, well, I can do that for you. So we started doing that. We met a few times, and then the pandemic hit. So even during pandemic, we still trained on Zoom, and we still continue to. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, they actually showed the Karate Kid Day, I think, in the John G. Avildsen documentary. I can't remember. It's been a while since I've seen it. I think they showed a little snippet of it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so
you definitely are the purveyor of Karate Kid trivia. And I'm looking at your pictures back there on the wall back there. You definitely number one fan.
yeah. I don't know if I can say that, but.
Well, I don't know if your listeners know, but I mentioned it when we first got on. I don't know how long you've been a friend of mine on Facebook, but it must be at least 8 or 9 years or something.
I was a little kid, so it's been a long time.
So I'm on Facebook, and like I said earlier, I think it was, I didn't even have my Vidal Kempo. I just had my Daryl Vidal.
Yeah, Daryl Vidal. Yeah.
And you friended me, and it was like, oh, look, this guy knows me from, remembers me from the Karate Kid. And then I've seen that you've been active, so I see your name on there. And I saw that interview, and I actually hit you up. I said, hey, you should interview me.
I saw it, and I was like, oh yeah. I think we had talked about it a while back and just never were able to get it scheduled.
Yeah, but after I saw your Instagram and you had like 30 people from the Karate Kid universe, I go, hey man, I know this guy.
Yeah. So for you, as a sensei, what is your most inspiring story you've learned? Because a lot of people say their best teachers are students.
Oh well, that's absolutely true. And do you train, Levi?
I actually did jujitsu for probably like 7 or 8 years, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and
Okay,
transferred into wrestling from there.
okay.
Yeah.
I wrestle too, so yeah, you know what it's like. Um, yeah, I always tell people that you learn most from your students, and one of the things that we talk about when you get your black belt is now you've reached the beginning of the journey, you
Right.
know. So all those years training to get the black belt was just like an introduction, and then once you get your black belt. But I like to have my brown belts is when I start letting them assist, because uh, as you start the first time you teach something, you realize, oh wow, I don't know what I'm doing here, or I don't know why this, why that. So you have to come back and say, hey, what about this, and why am I doing that? And so that inquiry causes you to, to get better and know how to answer those questions. So you definitely learn a lot from your students. But there's a story, and I think I talk about it in my episode with William Ford about a student of mine named Manny,
Yeah.
and he was this young kid, and he was kind of skinny and gangly and kind of uncoordinated.
Right.
And I always kind of joked about Manny, hey, come on, Manny, and I would give him a hard time and try to, help him with his karate. But he was starting to get older and starting to go up in rank, and then he at green belt, we consider green belt a senior level rank. So he got his green belt, and I was kind of talk to my instructor. I would say, I don't know what we're going to do about Manny. And then he got his brown belt. He tested, and our testing is pretty intensive. You have to be able to show everything. We do, sparring, and you have to do everything many times and over and reverse. So it's really a pretty intensive test, and it wasn't a very good showing. I would say we almost flunked him. So it was uh, it was a very difficult time. And back then, we had assembled a board of black belts. We still do this, and we discuss, what about this guy? Are we going to pass him? And I was always kind of like the hard nose, so I was not voting to pass him brown belt.
Yeah.
But I got overruled by the majority of voters, and we went ahead and passed him. But I told my instructor, and I said, Manny will never be able to really get a black belt,
Right.
And I was kind of discouraged about the whole thing because I felt that he might test and I'd get overruled again,
Yeah.
and so I felt like we were kind of lowering our standards. Well, Manny spent that next year growing up. He turned like 13 or 14 years old. He started to get tall and strong, and he did a great job on his black belt test. It was a phenomenal test. He passed along. I think he might have tested by himself, which is hard because it's usually you test with
It's you. Yeah. Absolutely.
so when he's on his own, you really have to show up and do it. And so the lesson there, just a long-winded answer to your question, is you can't count people out. You have to give them the opportunity. And not only that, it wasn't so much that I thought he couldn't do it, but it was a challenge to me to make sure he could do it.
Yeah.
So as I saw him coming into his own and learning, I became encouraged, and I knew by that time that he would do a good job on his test. And that's actually happened to me a couple times where I had one of my own students kind of in a similar situation, and he was just a little sloppy all the time. He couldn't. He wasn't. He wasn't strong and sturdy.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, and he actually failed his black belt test. So, he was in his late teens, probably 17. He tested with two other people. Two people failed and two people passed, which is really difficult
Yeah.
for the judging, because you have to say, okay, why did this person fail and why did this person pass? What are the qualities? So for that to happen, and to all the judges to kind of agree, he kind of really failed. But the lesson there is he came back, and when he came back, he passed with flying colors and did a great job. And I think he might have passed on his own as well. But like I said, that's happened a couple times. My instructor had a test where there were actually three Filipino boys that all were going up together. I think two were brothers, and they went up, and during their test, um, I'm the center judge. I'm the ranking belt for my instructor, and I was kind of grinding him the whole time. What about this? And why that? Do that again. And what's he doing there? And they ended up failing. And the parents went to Joe, my instructor, and they said, "What's with that guy, man?" And being Filipino, they would expect me to kind of, favor their kids, but
Yeah, absolutely.
there was none of that, and so they really were mad at Joe and at me. But he, there's nothing he could do. It wasn't just me.
Yeah.
It was a vote of all the board. But those guys all buckled down, and they all agreed to test again in 3 months, and they trained every day, during the week, and they came back and passed their test. And what happened there was the mom actually came to me after this, and she said, "I learned from you. I
Yeah.
learned, because I was so angry at Joe and at you after they failed. But what I learned is, if given the right opportunity, and they proved that they could do this." And so she was very thankful, and we all learned from those situations, but those three boys definitely learned, and their parents saw something that they didn't know that their kids could do. So
Yeah. So, did you get to work with Chad McQueen, or did you get to interact with Chad McQueen much on set?
yeah. When we were doing in the summer of '83, we trained for during the week for like 6 weeks. So he was one of the Cobra Kais. So he was one of the guys. So I can't say he was my best buddy or anything.
Yeah.
We were definitely interacting, and he's pretty athletic, and he is kind of family friends with Pat Johnson. And Pat
Yeah, he
Johnson,
plays Steve, right?
yeah, Steve McQueen, huge Hollywood star, great friend, best friends with Pat Johnson. So Chad is kind of like, Pat's, nephew or godson. They're very, very close,
Right.
and they still are actually. I think Pat and his studio, Chad's kids train with them too. So
Oh wow, yeah.
yeah. So he was, so he had training. You could see by watching it that, I don't think he had a black belt at the time, but he definitely knew martial arts.
Yeah. Yeah. So, can you talk about that clip of you on YouTube knocking out that guy?
Yeah. Okay, so that was a actual black belt test, and I think in 2017, 2018. And so the backstory is on a black belt test, it's like a 4.5 hour test, depending on how many people there are. And then you have to basically do everything you've learned. We have like 9 katas that you have to be able to perform. We have 9 sets of techniques, which are 10 techniques in each set. So you have to know those, and some of them are with knives and with weapons. And you have to be able to do them on a partner under pressure. And so there's a ton of stuff. It takes like 4.5 hours. Well, at the end of this, you're already tired. You have to spar, and you have to basically fight with any of the black belts on the board or other black belts who are there in attendance. And since I'm the ranking
Yeah.
ranking belt, I get to go last. So this guy had probably been fighting with 10 people, sequentially. So he's already tired. But the story, there's actually a story about that I teach a lesson to. As I'm watching his test, I noticed a couple of things. One, his ki. Uh, his ki was kind of like, and the way that we teach the ki is it comes from deep down, and it's an integral part of your karate and your power. And so I felt like his ki was coming up from his throat, and it wasn't really timed with his execution. So I actually told him that your ki is not working for you. You need to work on your ki, and it needs to, accentuate your power, and it needs to show. And the other thing I told him was, he had this very low guard. Something that you might do to taunt people or to bring them in, or to
Right.
get them to move on you. But I told him, I said, if you're sparring, with head contact, you got to get your hands up here so that you can block stuff.
Right.
Well, so by the end of his sparring, he's dead tired. He's gassing already. His hands are down here.
Yeah.
And so the first time, if you watch that sequence, I only hit him twice, right? I hit him in the stomach once, and then I kicked him once in the head, and his hands were down. So I just took my opportunity to hit him. And, I'm not trying to knock him out, but I did hit him pretty hard.
Yeah.
Not like the guy in the Olympics. He did go out cold.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
Well, it was funny. I actually talked on an interview about it, and or it was on there was a YouTube, and we actually messaged about it. Personally, I thought that it was a good kick.
Yeah.
But the guy kind of went into it, right? So
it's kind of like Johnny walking into the crane kick, really.
Exactly. I mean, it wasn't that much different. And so when I looked at it, I said, they shouldn't have disqualified him. They should have maybe given a penalty point, or or done something else.
Yeah.
But he did get knocked out cold. So I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. So what was it like for you getting inducted into the Hall of Fame?
Oh, wow. Yeah, that there's different halls of fame, right? So some of them are people. Some people poo-poo halls of fame because they say, "Oh, you're just you're just patting yourself on the back." But this Hall of Fame, which is called the Masters Hall of Fame, is not like that. It's a group of these top black belts from these different organizations that get together and they nominate. And so I was actually nominated by William Christopher Ford, who I was, he was nominated, before, and he became an ambassador for the program, and then so he nominated me, and I was very honored, and so it's amazing to be recognized. Not only for being in the movie, because that's kind of like I was in a movie, but it's really more about training for 40 years and achieving a 10th degree, and just helping so many people with martial arts, and that's what I think that's what it means to me, and I it's not really, I don't see it as patting myself on the back, because I didn't contact them and say, hey, I need to be in the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely, yeah.
Put me in, I deserve it. I didn't do that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So, for you, what's some of your favorite martial arts movies?
Oh, well, of course, the number one is Enter the Dragon.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
I don't know how others could be different. Of course, if you go back and watch it over and over, like, we've probably seen it so many times, you can start to pick things that aren't as favorable about the movie. But going back to the 70s, when I first saw it, and in my whole youth, it was,
you didn't understand some of those more slang terms and stuff.
Yeah, and just Bruce Lee, and the way that he filmed his fight scenes was so different, and violent. That's I always talk about in movies, how good the violence is. Is it really convincing? Because a lot of times, and this is not a slight on Jackie Chan, but he was never my favorite because his fights are amazingly acrobatic, but they're always kind of comedic.
Yeah,
He always gets hit and kind of shakes it off and does this silly thing, or spins a table. It's impressive and acrobatic, but it's not just violent. And so when Bruce Lee was, when he's hitting somebody, and it's not even traditional karate, it's just he's showing his JKD. And, yeah, so that's my main movie. I mean, if you want to go through, I could talk about different movies that I like for different reasons, but yeah,
yeah,
definitely Enter the Dragon is my number one.
yeah. So for the Hall of Fame, I saw William actually interviewed you at that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, like I said, he inducted me, so
yeah.
part of that was the interview, and you know our time on the red carpet, if you will.
Yeah, so I saw you acted in a movie a couple of years ago. What was the name of it? Now that I'm thinking about it, you acted a few years ago, though, right?
Well, I think you're going to be talking about Bullets, Blades, and
Yeah, that
Blood.
was. Yeah,
Yeah. So there's a filmmaker. His name is Robert Parham. You can see him around, and if you look at some of the things I've done, these are always around. He's a very good friend. But this is a movie that he started and has not been completed. So I did act and do a couple of scenes there, but it's never been released. So something might happen, and it will, but I
yeah,
can't I can't say when or what or
yeah,
how.
yeah. So last question: what is your favorite Karate Kid scene that you were not in?
Favorite Karate Kid scene that I was not in. Okay. Well, I mean, just to go straight up off of what of the movie itself is when he does the crane kick to win the
Yeah,
tournament. I mean,
right.
John Avildsen uh, directed Rocky, and he knows how to build up to that moment, and the
Right.
music is there, and the fans are there, and everyone's
Oh,
screaming, and you know what's going to happen, but you don't, and it culminates with a crane kick. I think that's got to be it.
yeah. Well, yeah. What was it like? All the extras and everything. When that scene was being filmed.
It was crazy because I don't know if you know this, but they had been throwing Karate Kid tournaments. They had like 3 that year, so that they could build up, a group of people who would go to the tournament, and so they could actually film and have real tournament going on.
Yeah.
And so that day, they actually had all these people come in, all these spectators come in, all these extras come in, all these tournament competitors. So it was a packed arena, and it was amazing that but at the same time we knew that we were there to film this
Right.
choreographed scene, so
Yeah.
it wasn't like we could just let loose and do different stuff. We
Right.
had to do exactly as we had planned, and I think the coolest thing from my standpoint, being not an actor, was he had like 8 cameras going at the same time. There was,
Right.
a far up camera, way up high, cameras between the stands, shooting through the stands, across a slow motion camera down here, and then another camera over here. To me, that blew my mind, just to see how much work and preparation went into the filming of those scenes. So I felt like I got to deliver every time. He's got
Yeah.
all these cameras running at the same
Yeah.
time, so there's a lot of pressure. But that was one of the most memorable
Yeah.
things of the movie.
Yeah. Actually, this is the last question, if you don't mind. But
That's fine.
so for Karate Kid 3, I always kind of wondered, why didn't they bring you back for Mike's semifinal? I thought that would have.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. It's funny because John Albinson, such a great guy. After we did the Karate Kid, he would actually send Christmas cards every year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I was getting Christmas cards from him every year. So I know that, you know, I'm there somewhere in his mind, but when Karate
Right.
Kid 3 was coming, I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
So I wasn't following Hollywood. I didn't know about the audition. So I didn't know until I saw William and he told me that he was going to be in the third Karate Kid, and I said, "Oh wow!" So yeah, I don't know, and
yeah.
yeah.
I just want to thank you for coming on. It was great to be able to speak with you today.
Yeah, Levi. I mean, we've known each other through Facebook all these years, so it's great talking to you,
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
hopefully you got some good things for your interview.
Yeah, and hopefully, I know you can't say nothing, but hopefully we'll see you on screen very soon. So
Hopefully.
hopefully, fingers crossed. All right,
Yeah.
thank you again.
All right. Thanks, Levi.